and welcome to a bonus episode of Two Old Psychologists Talking About Stuff. So, we are going to do a bit of shameless promotion, not for ourselves, but for the Association for Contextual Behavioural Science conference, which is coming up in Manchester in November. So, Ray, you're there. Do you want to say hi?
Hello. Yeah, very much looking forward to it.
And we are joined by none other than the president of the UK and Ireland chapter of ACBS, Dr. Dawn Johnson.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Do we need to bow and scrape or touch our forelocks or anything in particular, given your presidential status?
Not this evening. No, I think we're okay. Thank you for the offer.
A president with humility.
I would hope so.
I wonder if the best place to start then with Dawn would be just for you to say something about what this conference is. Like, why do we have these annual conferences? What do they involve? Just to give people the general overview of what it's all about.
I think the biggest word that jumps into my mind at that point is community. So obviously it's a professional conference and we have a range of clinicians and researchers who come regularly to ACBS conferences and events. So of course, there's a huge element of learning and both personal and professional development. So anybody that I've spoken to who's been to an ACBS event, I think largely the big word that they take away is community and connection. Well, that's two words. It's about community and connection, right? We have been running conferences in the UK and Republic of Ireland for many years, and they have usually been every 2 years. And so the reason that we have changed the schedule of that for this year is because Worldcon is actually in Lyon next year. And we think many people would like to go to Worldcon and potentially won't manage two conferences within about 3 months of each other. So we have decided to run a UK and ROI chapter conference this year, despite only being in London 12 months ago. And then we won't have another UK and ROI chapter conference until 2027. Continue to grow our community and to grow our learning and sharing our information so we can work towards that wonderful thing of alleviating human suffering.
I'm just going to underline what you said there about community. So, fun fact for our listeners is that the first time I ever met Ray was at the very first UK and Ireland ACBS conference. Do you remember that, Ray?
Vividly. It was in London, wasn't it? But that's a good point, isn't it, Rich? That both, having worked together all these years since, collaborated on lots of projects, as well as becoming good friends, actually all started with a conversation standing next to some posters, which probably wouldn't have happened if we'd not both been physically present in that room, that we happened across each other and the conversation began. So I think that is a powerful argument for if people are able to, and not everybody is able to, but if people are able to physically turn up at a conference, that's one of the bonuses that comes with it.
Absolutely. I was just running through in my head the number of people that I now call my friends that I met at an ACBS conference. And I'm aware that saying that might make it sound like, oh, it's just going to be a big sort of clique of loads of people that know each other. I guess there are people that know each other, and I've always found them a very, very welcoming place to be. Like, whether you're a professor of many years standing or you're someone who's a complete newbie, I think people often say how welcoming the atmosphere is at those conferences. And it is just a lovely community to be a part of.
I think one of the things that we have tried to incorporate into this conference as well, so you may notice if you've looked at the schedule already that we are running a 3-day conference. And the first one of those days is a networking day. So our structure in the UK and our ROI chapter has been that we would alternate years where we would provide a networking day in the year that we are not running a conference. And so this year we were due to have a networking day, and we have tagged it on to a 2-day conference because of Worldcon being in Lyon next year. And so we've got a slightly different structure. And it really does speak to what you have both just raised about the community. The whole function of that day is about the community gathering and people building relationship and connecting and learning about each other's work and learning about each other as individuals and human beings, right? Not just about the work that they're doing. Let me give you a bit of structure to that. We're kicking off the Friday at 11 a.m. so people can travel without having to stay over on the Thursday night. So we're starting slightly later on the Friday to accommodate for that. And we are going to meet the board first of all, and that hopefully will be an engaging time with the board where we are connecting with you, because we don't want it to be an us and them scenario, right? So the board are welcoming in ideas and connections of how we can continue to grow our community. We are having a values session, which will be an invitation, of course, and aimed predominantly at our personal lives, at us as people, rather than at us as a clinician or a researcher or a student. We're not focusing on that so much as who are we and how do we connect with each other and ourselves. We're then having a lunch break, and following that, we're having a session to do with laughter. And again, the whole function of this is people sharing a vulnerable space and connecting with colleagues. And our final session then is a session on belonging on Friday afternoon. And so, again, just really fits in with what you have just both spoken about in terms of our community, a sense of belonging and a sense of being welcomed in. And how that lands for people, we won't know. And it certainly is our intention to invite a space where people can connect and people can gather. And hopefully there will be plenty of time to allow for connections and networking, just like you have reflected on your chat next to some posters, right? And so Friday evening, then we then have an event that's free for everybody to attend, whether you've bought a Friday ticket or not been able to. Those Friday evening, 5 till 7, we're having poster presentations and more time for people to have exactly those kind of conversations that you two enjoyed.
And then I guess the next 2 days are more like a standard academic conference that everyone would recognise. So a mixture of workshops for those people who want to sharpen their therapy skills, panel discussions for the people that want to dive into the various issues of the day, and symposia where people are presenting research, usual kind of blend of stuff.
Yeah, we've got a really amazing mix of all three of those things, and really diverse topics as well. So really fits with the theme of the conference, which was taken from the Manchester bee, the symbol for Manchester being the bee. And we took from that the theme of pollination. And we have a huge array of different topics. So, for example, we've got relational frame theory and gender, which is amazing. We've got ACT and cold water immersion. We've got ACT and CFT, and a panel discussing how they're using both of those approaches in an acute mental health service. We've got CBS and play therapy working in trauma-informed care. It's an incredible, diverse array of topics that people have contributed their work on the theme of pollination.
Okay, I wonder if we could just do a very quick fire round in terms of thinking about what if you've never been to a conference before? What would be one reason for someone who's never attended to take the plunge and attend for the first time? Ray?
I think one of the key things of an in-person conference is the opportunity to meet new people. And one particular aspect of that is some of the long-term working collaborations that I've had over years and years in this field have actually started in conferences, not just friendships, but new ideas have spawned, talking about what we've just heard, looking at the poster we've just read, or just sitting over coffee or a meal. And although I realise not everybody can physically get to a conference, if you're able to, that could be a real benefit in the long term.
Okay, thanks, Ray. Dawn, what would you say? One reason to go if you've never been before?
I think the conference will be a wonderful opportunity. So, mirroring a lot of what Ray has just referred to, one of the things we're doing on Saturday morning is a rookies session. So, if you are a complete newbie to the world of ACBS conferences, there will be a session welcoming you and kind of inviting you into this space. And I think, as Ray's just said, live conferences, face-to-face conferences allow for people to connect in those moments where perhaps online we would all isolate and go for lunch separately. There are a huge number of social activities and moments during the conference where it's in those moments that people get to genuinely connect with somebody else and wonderful things can happen.
Okay, thank you both. Given that you've given rather earnest answers, I'm going to go for the Follies as my reason to go if you've never been before. So this kind of sounds awful, but is great. The Follies is a part of every ACBS conference, and it is intended as a way of kind of flattening the hierarchy. What it is a Saturday evening event, and it is a kind of cabaret show that's put on by the delegates, people that go. So anyone who goes can submit a folly, and they are frequently comedy sketches, songs, stand-up routines, poems, all sorts of things. And the sort of warm invitation is to gently, do something that's ACT or CBS related, but often to kind of poke fun at ACT itself or the people involved in ACT. And the idea was originally about kind of flattening the hierarchy, sort of not taking ourselves too seriously and just reminding us that there's fun to be had in all of this stuff, and it doesn't always have to be a super serious endeavour. So Follies evenings they're kind of like a really good-natured wedding where some performances are just brilliant, some are frankly awful, but they're all entertaining nonetheless. So yeah, Follies. If you've never done that, that should be on your bucket list. Definitely something to do before you die. Okay, great. So what about another quick fire round? I've been interested in your contribution. So Ray, what are you bringing to the party?
I will be presenting one section in a whole session on bereavement and grief support. So alongside some colleagues who will be talking about a fantastic online initiative service that's kind of available called My Grief, My Way, which is an ACT-based resource for grieving people. So mygriefmyway.com is out there and available to everybody. In parallel to that, I'm doing a sort of 15, 20-minute little section in which I'm going to explain the meaning of life and reflect on whether that even matters. So I think, 15, 20 minutes max, I can definitely nail that. The reason for it appearing in that seminar is that actually a lot of it is going to be derived from what we think goes on in grieving around people's attempts to reconstruct meaning in a life that can suddenly feel bereft of meaning.
You not think 15, 20 minutes is a bit long for unpacking the entire meaning of life?
Yeah, there might be time for song and dance at the end.
Well, I look forward to that. I'm just going to underline that My Grief, My Way. So that's an amazing package. Yeah, if people have never seen that, definitely have a look at that. Dawn, so this feels like an unfair question because you've basically organised the entire thing. I kind of know the amount of work that the president puts in around organising a conference. So pinning you down to one contribution feels a little bit unfair, given that basically the entire thing wouldn't happen without you. But I'm going to pin you down nonetheless. What was one thing that you think you bring to the table here?
Well, thank you for that. It is a lot of hard work, and I do just want to name the board and the volunteers as well. I haven't done this in silo by any stretch of the imagination. So the whole of the ACBS board have been working very hard on this for many months. So I just want to share my gratitude with everybody who has contributed to making this happen. And I will actually be contributing to one of the sessions on Friday. So I am co-facilitating a session on values on Friday with Rhian Thorne. So if you're able to join us on Friday morning for the networking day, you will meet me in the first session when we introduce the board. And in the second session in the morning, we will be exploring values. And Rhian and I have got some things to try out with everybody. So very much looking forward to that.
Okay. So the one thing I'm contributing is I've convened a panel of people from various different religious backgrounds, and we are going to look at how ACT fits, I suppose, probably the best way to put it, with different religious worldviews. So I've co-opted a bunch of people who are going to talk about the resonance of ACT within, so Christianity, Islam, Sikhism, and Judaism. Well, that's what I'll be contributing. Next quick fire round. I'm interested in, aside from what you're giving to this conference, what are you hoping to take? So one thing on the program that you have sort of earmarked as something that you definitely want to go to? Ray?
There are so many things. Sadly, some of them clash. One that I definitely will be going along to is a session discussing some new guidance that's come out across the ACT community internationally on what we can do to help boost training and supervision of all sorts of practitioners, from new to experienced. I think a lot of work's gone into that. What I've read of it looks fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to hearing a panel of people discuss how that's going to work in practice.
Dawn?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer. I've read every single abstract and every single learning objective, and I can honestly say I'm very, very excited about this programme. One of the things I do want to reflect on, actually, in terms of, so I'm going to avoid the question of what's one thing I'm going to go to, because I'm hoping to go to many things across the whole conference, and I will hopefully be very present around the space. And one of the things I do want to comment on is the absolute range of topics that we have, and the diversity of this conference is incredible. And it really does feel like it fits with the theme of pollination that we invited people to contribute to. So I will be going to a range of those things that will give me a huge taste of how we're pollinating ACT, RFT, FAP, all of the contextual behavioural sciences in the work that we're doing.
I'm glad that you mentioned pollination there, because that's the vibe I'm getting looking at the programme, that it's not just a cool name that relates to the Manchester Bee, but it is about how ACT can be applied in all sorts of different settings. It's not just, it's not like a basic ACT training you're going to get here. You're going to learn about how ACT can be applied in all sorts of different ways, which is fantastic. I'm getting that thing, that you get at conferences where there's 3 things on at any one time, right? So you can only go to a third of the conference, which is always sort of disappointing. So I really wanted to go to Christian Hughes's workshop about moral injury through an ACT lens. Christian is a great guy who is a CBT therapist, mental health nurse, and was in the military. And so he has a real interest in moral injury, as it particularly relates to the experience of veterans. And I can't go because I'm doing something else at the same time. So damn those schedulers. So my vote is going to go to the wonderful Ricky Kjelgaard, who is one of those people who sort of changed my life, I think, in very good ways, and has really helped me to be a better therapist. She's doing a workshop for therapists on, I'm going to read out the title because it's complicated, but navigating self-disclosure to foster authentic connection without crossing boundaries. So how do therapists use self-disclosure in their work without that becoming kind of an inappropriate, I guess, divulging of your own personal life. So that sounds fascinating, because I think self-disclosure is one of those topics there's a huge range of opinion on, and I think I've shifted my position on it over the years. So I'm fascinated to hear what Ricky, who is a rock star of the ACT community, is going to say about that. So lastly then, we probably need to just give people a bit of information about where they need to go to book.
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to go would be our website. So the UK and ROI chapter have got a dedicated website, and you can find out all the information about the conference on there. You will also be able to buy your tickets on there. So you can head to www.acbsukandireland.com. So the and is AND, so acbsukandireland.com. And there are limited tickets for the Friday event, so we don't have very many of those left. If you would like to come to all 3 days, please go and grab your tickets as soon as possible. And in terms of any other information, there is lots of news about the conference on the website. You can also send us an email. Those contact details are available on there too. And there is also lots of things coming through on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. So you can find all of those accounts via our website.
Lovely, thank you. I mean, I think just in terms of closing, we don't take ads on this podcast. We don't promote things willy-nilly. So I think giving you the time to talk about this conference is a measure of the esteem we hold this event.
Thank you.
In being part of this community has been one of the most rewarding things of my professional life. And so these events are really important to me. So thank you very much for coming along and talking about it. We'll see you both there, and I hope to see other listeners there too. Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.